Carlo of We Are Change Seattle. This is a sit-down with General Wesley Clark. We're going to be talking about his new book, A Time to Lead, and some additional issues that we have on our mind. Go ahead and get out there. His book is in every major bookstore. Again, it's called A Time to Lead, and this is a sit-down with General Wesley Clark. Initially, I want to know, why did you write this book?
I wanted to be in the public dialogue with an idea about what America is. And I wanted to write about why I love America. And you can't just write, 100 pages of I love America because people are nice and people are friendly, because you have to explain it. You have to tell it in a narrative, a story. And I thought it was a good story.
It was interesting watching you out there and kind of telling people what you hope to walk away, what you hope the everyday American will walk away with once they read your book. Now, for the everyday person who hasn't read your book, what would you tell them? What do you hope for them to walk away with?
Well, first of all, I hope that young people will read it. And I hope they'll read it as something that inspires them to dream great dreams and have the courage to and daring to try to live those dreams. And I hope that people across the political spectrum will read it and say, this is not a politically partisan book, this is really a book about America. And I hope that older people will read it and say, it's never too late to continue to make a difference in life.
I'm really glad you say that. I want to go to 9/11 because I believe this is the one event that changed a lot of our lives. And I believe that this is where I think America kind of lost its soul and or its spirit a little bit, in the sense that it became very us and them. It became Republican and Democrats. We lost that soul of friendship and what it's like to have a neighborhood and a community and all that. What I want to ask you is, how do we fix that?
First of all, you have to understand it wasn't an accident that it became us and them. It was a deliberate plan.
Okay.
I was called the 2 days after 9/11 and told that if I ever wanted to be elected in office, I should be a Republican, because no Democrats would ever be elected in national office again. They were going to make sure of that, because it was going to be about national security, and they were going to make sure the country, these were Republicans, and they were going to make sure the country never trusted the Democrats with national security.
It's interesting.
So they made sure it was a partisan issue. They put the first priority not on keeping America safe, but on advancing their partisan political interests.
You say them, and a lot of people say them, but who is them? Are you referring to?
These are Republican partisans.
Okay. Like I said, I read portions of your book. It was interesting to me that basically a week, I believe, what you stated after 9/11, you flew to the Pentagon, and you met a lot of your older gentlemen that you used to work with, a lot of your friends. What was interesting in your book is that you mentioned that they told you that we're going to Iraq. Also, what you stated in your book was that you got a call while actually doing a CNN interview and were told the same thing. I believe you stated that you had no problem stating that as long as you saw some evidence. I'm curious, here we are 6 years later, 4 or 5 years later, going to our 5th year here. Have you seen any evidence with respects to? Could you tell us, why do you think we're in Iraq?
It's in the book.
Okay.
This is part of I'd call it a policy coup.
Okay.
A group of people with the idea they wanted to change the Middle East by force tried to get it approved by George H. Bush in 1992, and it was rejected. And after 9/11, they thrust it forward on his unsuspecting, ill-informed, and unprepared son, who bought off on it.
Okay.
And we ended up going to war in Iraq with a plan to go on into Syria, I guess.
Well, I wouldn't say you guess. It's interesting you bring that up, because you also talked about a note that you did not see. I repeat, you did not see, but we're told about 7 countries in 5 years. Yeah. One has to beg and differ and ask the question. Is this about oil? Is this about?
Everything's always about oil in that region, but it wasn't directly about oil. I don't think the oil companies pressed Bush and said, okay, now invade Iraq so we can take over their oil. I don't think it was like that.
Ask you about the White House. It seems in Iran. I, as an everyday citizen, I'm starting to get a little scared because I'm starting to see some similar rhetoric that I saw with Iraq, but now with Iran.
Yeah.
It's almost like you see the exact same video clip, but we've now
Absolutely.
changed the word with Iran.
Absolutely.
It's also interesting that the White House maintains that they want to find a diplomatic solution to Iran, but yet our president will not have any dialogue with the president of Iran in any way. I want to ask your thoughts on that, and I also want to ask you directly, does Iran pose any threat to the everyday American person, and does it justify any type of military action?
Well, we've all said that Iran shouldn't have a nuclear weapon, and the reason we believe that is because of three things. First, because if they had a nuclear weapon, it could end up in the hands of terrorists, and they have the terrorists that you never know where it's going to show. Secondly, because if they get a nuclear weapon, it will spark an arms race in the region, and other countries will get nuclear weapons. And third, if they get a nuclear weapon, they're likely to use it to deter the kind of threats that free them up to execute other conventional military operations elsewhere against other nations. So it's a destabilizing factor, not only regionally but worldwide, if they get nuclear weapons. So we've said they can't have nuclear weapons. Are they a threat other than that? Well, they're certainly doing their best to destabilize the region. No, they're not on ships coming to America, but they are a destabilizing factor in that region.
Two things I want to ask you about, and it's still on Iran. You mentioned the value of negotiation in your book, Over Force, and also you mentioned the Gulf of Tonkin as a supposed attack. A lot of congressmen and prominent people are calling it a false flag event. Also, a lot of congressmen and prominent people today are telling the American people to be aware of a false flag operation that could justify military action against Iran. Again, do you find any truth to that?
I just don't know anything about that.
Okay.
All I know is I think the administration is, some people in the administration are looking to find a way and a reason to attack Iran.
Okay. This was on an ABC show that you went on, and you stated that you believe that the investigation of 9/11 was not complete, and whether or not the administration actually missed intelligence information it had. Are there any specifics with respect to the 9/11 Commission that stand out?
We've never heard why the president never called people together, how he used the intelligence. We've never heard about the misuse of the intelligence running up to the Iraq War,
Okay.
which was supposed to be part of the 9/11 investigation. It's never been released.
Okay.